Good evening, I'm the professor, and welcome to my video on Charlemagne. Now this is going to be a heavy one, because I actually went and did over 200 tests on Charlemagne and all the different heroes and stuff like that and combinations, so I can come and bring you that. And I've got results. So I want to show you which I've got here. But first, before I can actually do this thing, or actually I should say before that, let me show you quickly what I was testing. If you want to screenshot this and read it at your leisure, go here. All the information will be available in the link in the description if you want to follow along there or read at your leisure. I'll just quickly summarize it here. You can take a snapshot if you'd like, but these are the armies that I went and tested, all of the different ones. First thing I had to do was get a baseline. So I needed something of a baseline in which to compare things to. So that was going to be Miyamoto-Charlemagne and Yodit. All of them are going to have the best rings available that I've got, and all the armies are going to have the best equipment, best rings, best full skills as much as possible on here. I also went, because I was doing this at the time, went and tested Mehmed as well. Now, he's only 1 star right now, but I did go and do these tests. And I found out something interesting as bonus. So if we go back over to here for a sec, here's my list over here. These are the different ones. Again, you can find all this in the description. But Mehmed, Trib did 3 star, did 176,000. Mehmed 1 star did 167 with Bloodthirsting Kingsblade. Mehmed with Owl's Lament and Peaceful Haven, 172. Of the two, Trib did do more, but it is 1 star versus 3 stars, so hey, that's fair. However, it was not a landslide victory. Mehmed did not do overwhelmingly better than Trib. Even if you gave him up to 3 stars, or even if you put both of them up to 5 stars, he's not doing dramatically higher, and that was a disappointment to have, for sure. So, not a great sign for Mehmed, but just be that what it was. Important one for now, though, 176,000. So you can actually go and compare the numbers to that. So this one here is the old setup. So I'm going to go over here. So this is the old setup here. I was running over with Sun Tzu, Philip, and Theodora. Pre-Charlemagne, this is what you got. This is the best you can do. I ran them all with full equipment, which were level 70s and 80s that I had over on here, and with the best rings I could give them, which in this case here is going to be Lofty Mountain on Lofty Mountain on Sun Tzu, Skyward Knight on Theodora, and the final ring was Ring of Rose, which I got a nice level 30 here on that. So these were the heroes I ran. Now we're going here, so instead of High Spirit and Flash of Inspiration, we would go High Spirit and Strategy Master's Gift. These would all be 5 stars in my tests, but I had to reset them so I can keep using my heroes. Sun Tzu is sitting at that. Philip is High Spirit and Conflagration on both of them, even those were all at 5 stars. And Theodora was Maneuver and Conflagration. But this army here was the base value. It went 108,000. That, in comparison to here, is how much of a difference this army was running. So what happens when I actually introduced Charlemagne? Well, when I went over here and took out Philip and put in Charlemagne, so I was running this combination here, and I gave him the Ring of Rose instead, with War Tactic and Convocation. When I ran this army here, this was the difference in result. 108 up to 129. It essentially went up 20% higher damage. Mehmed did not. Mehmed basically broke even. Charlemagne went up 20% higher. Charlemagne is worth it in this lineup. He is bringing him up higher. Now, essentially 130 versus 176. It is not as powerful at the highest I could get it to a Miyamoto Trib Yodit army. But it's only a chunk behind. Now, this is with Sun Tzu 5 stars, Charlemagne and Theodora both 3 stars. Miyamoto 3 star, 5 star. So it has some catching up it can do, for sure. It can actually pull closer to that. Now, none of this thing is going to be with Ramesses, because I don't have him yet. This is all precursor work, so that once I get Ramesses in a week or 2 weeks, hopefully, I can start doing testing with him. Although I won't be able to 5-star him until probably another couple weeks. I got like 400 plus tokens, not enough. So Charlemagne, though, worth it. The amount of damage that he goes from Sun Tzu here, or 700 or 76, up to Sun Tzu here is 110. Massive increase in damage from Charlemagne. Theodora stays the same. Philip over Charlemagne over Philip. Massive increase in damage. He's going to be very, very well worth it. And I am well on my way towards 5-starring him. The next time that I get, the next time the wheel comes up, I'm going to 5-star him. That's one of my big major goals. So, but for now, I had to do testing at 3 stars. 3 stars was phenomenal. Very, very well worth it. One of the things I want to point out, though, interesting, you have the old setup, Theodora, Philip, Cleopatra, and even Philip because commander. This is an important one to run, even though it doesn't look like it. It obviously did the worst, but I don't care about that. What does Sun Tzu look like when he's a secondary hero and not a commander? That's what I needed this army here for. So if you're looking at all these types, though, Charlemagne and Philip, Theodora, and Philip did similar amounts, but Philip is 5-star, Theodora is 3-star, and he's still some amount less. Now, just one thing I'm aware of with this army here is that he did get less signature rolls on average, so it is possible that, Philip will have a bit higher score, but even then is only tying Theodora at most, and she's not at 5-star. So Philip wasn't great. Cleopatra's not great. Philip Commander's not great. The ones that you definitely want are going to be Sun Tzu, Charlemagne, and Theodora. So that's going to be the one that I've got set up here that I showed you. Now, that said, what happens once you get Ramesses? Well, I went and did some of this stuff over here, and one of the things I'm trying to figure out is things like such as what happens to Sun Tzu if he becomes a secondary hero, not a commander, and the amount of damage that you drop here is like 3 times, right? Like you basically drop 60% of your damage to go down to here. So Ramesses in the commander spot is going to make up for 60% of the damage. Now, I went and did that, and if you go over here, you can see some of the math and stuff like that it'll go here. That you can do this on your own time. But Sun Tzu total is here. Miyamoto total is here. This is the bold is how much is expected to actually do to match those values. So if I were to fill in Theodora in here, or Sun Tzu, or Charlemagne down, through all of this thing here, you can look at how much is expected to tie Sun Tzu and how much is expected to tie Miyamoto. If you can tie Miyamoto, you are doing really, really good. That is a very high benchmark to hit. Now, I want to point out here, Ramesses is supposed to do more damage than Sun Tzu, so I'm expecting a higher number than here. Or, if you go and put Ramesses in the back line, he has to do more than 35% here. These are the values that what he would try to get. I have high expectations of Ramesses being able to actually pull that off once he's at 5 stars. It's really, really important for his 5-star ability. But this one here is one that I'm interested in trying, because Sun Tzu is going to lose so much damage going into the back. It's going to be a question of, is it actually worth? Like, if this is going to be 35 for Sun Tzu in the back, might as well just do Philip, right? Because he's at least going to buff everyone else. However, these are probably none of them the proper way to go. The one that you're going to want to do, if you're running over, what was it? If you're going to run Ramesses, is you do not want Sun Tzu commander. Now, I don't have Ramesses, so use Ramheng as a replacement stand-in for him for now. So you're going to actually want to run him, and then you want to run Charlemagne, and then finally you want to run, where is she? Theodora. This will be the army that you're trying to run. With Ramesses, when you get him, you're going to want to run Flame of Genesis and Strategy Master's Gift. The reason for this thing here, because it'll give you a 15% increased activation chance. High Spirit will give you 18. You do not have a charging skill on Ramesses, so you don't get the increased value like Sun Tzu would. So you can either take 18% activation chance or 15 with a whopping plus 30% damage, right? You lose 3% activation chance for that extra damage. That is going to be quite highly valuable. So Flame of Genesis, Strategy Master's Gift. that will be him in a nutshell. Now, the rings that you want to run is probably going to be a little different than you're expecting. The ones that I'm going to do and stuff like that is to give Lofty Mountain to Ram. Then go over to Theodora and give Skyward Knight and leave that with her. That's good. Go over to Charlemagne, and it'll probably be the Ring of Rose is the one I want to grab. The reason for this is it's actually a decent chunk of damage, and it's cheap. I don't have to do something else. So these are going to be the 3 rings I run. Why Lofty Mountain on Ram Kamahang? For 2 reasons. When you actually look at his base stats, and obviously this guy doesn't, it is higher base stats on Ram for strategy and armor than it is on Charlemagne. Especially since Ram is going to scale a lot higher with your star levels. So he's just going to have a whole lot more strategy. But he also has the Flames of Genesis skill, which will increase his strategy by 180. So it's going to be phenomenally higher. What this means here is that at the end of it, you're going to get a larger bonus of your troop damage by having Ramesses hold this than you would otherwise. Charlemagne, well, first off, Theodora makes sense, right? That's the norm. Charlemagne, though, is going to be going and using this ring here, as it is the cheap way for extra damage, and that's probably the best thing you're going to get. Hard to go wrong with one of these rings here. If you want to do something different, the options that you have available are your Ring of Serpent, Ring of Crow are the 2 main ones. Now, Ring of Serpent is a really important one because it has might bonus. So, Ramesses himself and Charlemagne both actually have decent might bonuses. They can scale with that. That is a good ring that you can go. It'll give them the largest chunk of straight-up strategy. The other one you can go here is Ring of Crow. So this will do less, but it'll steal it from the enemy commander with a strategy bonus. So you're going to steal a fair good chunk for 3 seconds. So it's going to be up only part of the time, but you will like the bonus stats. Charlemagne especially loves extra strategy because his key thing that gives him so much power is this ability here, which has a strategy bonus. When the skill damage increases by basically just under 50%, the commander is going to get 50% bonus damage times 2. So you're looking at 100, probably about 120% bonus damage for what you're going after here. That's huge. That's really, really big. That's why he works so well. Sun Tzu is big, massive, and also why he works so well with that. So he wants extra strategy, but this is a good cheap alternative. So this is what it's going to look like for the majority things. However, this is probably not the strongest Ram army. From what people are telling me and what I'm able to learn, Charlemagne doesn't fit here. The strongest strategy army is going to be with Trib. You're going to have Ramesses, Trib, and Theodora. What happens here is Trib is going to give him the very, very consistent activation, this ability here, and this will give you extra strategy every time it activates. When you get to 5-star, whole plus 12 bonus to that means it's going to give you about 18 strategy every time it activates, and it's guaranteed to activate with with Tribhuvana. So this is the most consistent way to get you into your powerful commander skill all the time, every time. So that is the key thing about why this particular army here works. You want Ramesses into Tribhuvana, and from there take Theodora. Problem, and this is one that's going to surprise you. I think this one here is my biggest surprise that I got to show you guys. If I were to go and do this army here, Trib isn't available for this army. So then what do I fill the slot with? And there's options and choices you can have here. And the one that I'm going to see people do, but you probably shouldn't, is Mehmed. I'm going to show you something else I figured out that you can actually run. And this is what I'm personally going to be working towards. Charlemagne. So, Miyamoto-Charlemagne Yodit. Why? Well, Miyamoto is going to be activating Yodit all the time. Charlemagne's going to give Miyamoto extra boosts, but with his skill, doing a plus 100% extra damage. He actually has like a pretty high base damage skill. So they're big boosts. Now, he's going to boost him, and he's going to get extra activations to boost him. It's going to be lots of extra damage. How much? Well, so here's the list again, except for this time I'm now added in Miyamoto-Charlemagne unit. Okay, Charlemagne's only 3 stars right now, but his damage is actually able to keep up with this one here. So this is really, really important. Okay, Miyamoto-Charlemagne can keep up with Miyamoto-Trib. It's not going to be a massive increase, right? Like they're 3 stars each right now. It'll be about the same, but that means that you're now safe to take Trib and move him elsewhere so that Charlemagne can fill the hole. And if you find that doesn't even work anymore, then you can just take Trib and put him back here and put Charlemagne back here. They are able to be swapped out interchangeably, and that's a valuable trait. This is the army that I'm going to be working towards, knowing that if this fails, I can just always swap them back again. So I can always just run back to the main one. Unfortunately, and this is sad for me, this is really sad actually, my Sun Tzu, 5 stars, probably not going to get used very much. My Philip, 5 stars, probably not going to use very much. I didn't get very good purchases with these ones here, and now I got my 2 main armies built up and set out, and I'm not even going to be using them much. This one hurts. I'm still going to try to figure out something to do with these guys, but if we go back down over to here for a second, I can't do very much. They're not the strong heroes. So every opportunity that I've tried to do to come up with something falls short. I can probably run Sun Tzu in this army here in place of Theodora, which I will be definitely doing testing on to see if I can, but likely no. So learn from my mistake here, guys. These ones here are ones that don't survive very well. If you do not have Ram, then you can use Sun Tzu as a replacement. But Theodora is always going to be better than Philip. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. This army here is a pretty solid secondary army to Miyamoto. Miyamoto is the better army of the two. This is a good solid second. So I'm going to be running, if you want 2 swordsman armies, this is the way to go with this army here. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But definitely looking forward to Ramesses, and it's unfortunate with Sun Tzu. Once I get Ramesses and get him up to 5 star, I'll be doing another round of testing here. So 200 means we're probably going to be doing close to 300, 350 testing total to find out exactly where these characters lie. But with that, that's mostly it for Charlemagne. If you go back over to the documents, and there's a link in the description, you can find out all the ones that I've went and did. You can find out what their total values is, the summaries here. And if you want to, you can dive into the actual individual testing itself I did for each one. That you can find over there. And if you watched all the way to the end, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you like and subscribe, it would help me out a lot. And yeah, let's go see what comes next.